Hello everyone. Today we'll be playing Puzzle Rush Survival. So we're just going to take the free rook here. And then checkmate. We're going to go rook g1. Bishop will have to block, and then we get the free piece. Here's checkmate in 1. Another checkmate in 1. Another checkmate in 1. Here we get a checkmate with the knight. You can see the rook blocks off this whole file. I think queen h4 here should be winning. Just checkmate, I think, right? Here I like the look of bishop h4. And we'll eventually slow down too as we get into the more challenging puzzles. Here I think that takes is fine, right? Takes, check, block. You take the piece. Unless I'm missing something really easy. Here we take the bishop. The bishop was defending this square. Knight will take back, and then we're going to fork the king and the rook. This is a simple checkmate pattern. Check the king first, has to go back. Check it again. Takes, checkmate. Here we have a discovered attack against the queen. So if we move the knight right here and take the pawn, we'll then be hitting the queen. And we're also hitting this bishop. In the event that the queen goes here, we just take the bishop, queen takes, and then we pick up this knight for free. So in this puzzle, it's easy to think that we have checkmate right here, but we actually don't, right? Because the queen's protecting. So we have to check here first with the queen. Here we have rook takes h5, king g6, and then queen e8 checkmate, I believe. This is a simple pattern here where we'll push this pawn, king will be forced to take, and then we go for the checkmate. This is just a free queen. Here we have checkmate in 3. We push the pawn first. King goes back. Then we check. They block with bishop, and we take again. Here we just have mate in 2, right? Rook g8, only square for the king. Should be d7. And then rook d8 should be checkmate. You can see we're blocking off all these squares. Oh, never mind, we're in check. So I think we actually go king h2. That way he can't check us anyway, unless he sacks his queen, which he does. Here we have bishop h3. And this is just going to cut off all the space for his king. So now we just have a checkmate with rook b1. We just have checkmate in 1 here. Queen h8. Here we have checkmate in 3, I believe. So we're going to go queen a6, king b8, knight c6 check, king a8, queen a7 checkmate. Here we have mate in 2, and we actually have enough time. So we're going to bring our king up first, take away this spot for the king. They can queen, which is fine, and then we're just going to deliver checkmate with a7. You'll notice here that our queens are on the same file. So if we take this rook and they take back with this pawn, then we get the free pawn. If they take with this pawn, we get the queen. Now we have a decision to make, right? Because if we take with the queen, we can trade queens. And then they have d2 here. And we actually have no way to get back to defend against the queen, I believe. Whereas if we take with the rook and they play d2, we can actually sack our rook, I think. Takes. Then we come here with the queen. King comes over to f7, queen f8 check. And the king is forced out to e6, which cuts off the queen from protecting against e8. And then we can queen. So I think taking with the rook here is actually correct. Yep. Here I think that we should take the knight with the rook. When they take back, we'll take with the bishop. And this rook is completely trapped. There's no way for black to salvage this piece. And there's also no way to defend it. You can see the king is cut off right here. So then eventually we'll just be able to take that piece and then drop back, I believe. In this position, notice that the knight is stranded in the center of the board and doesn't really have anywhere to go, right? It's blocked by the pawn here and by the pawn here. Can't go here because our rook. Can't go here because of our rook. Can't go here because of the rook and the knight, and can't go here because of our knight. And obviously our king is protecting this square, and we have a pawn right here. So I think f5 just traps the knight completely here. And now we can just trade the rook and take. And don't be scared of rook c7. We just meet that with rook f7. And then we protect this knight indirectly. So I believe we're fine to just trade rooks and take the piece now. Here we have this nice fork, which wins us the queen, right? Because we're checking the king, and nothing can take. So here you can see that our queen is hanging, and there's nowhere for it to go. But that's actually not even something we should be worrying about, because we have bishop c5, cutting off all the squares for the king. It's almost checkmate. They can block with the bishop, and then we take the bishop, and that's checkmate. Here we can use the fact that the king and this pawn are stuck on the same file. So we're first going to take this queen, deflect the king away from the rook, take the rook for free. And then it looks like they're making a queen, right? Because we can't come back to block. But remember that the king and the pawn are on the same file. So then we check the king has to move. And we're going to pick up that pawn before it gets a chance to turn into a queen. So here I'm considering a couple of things. Obviously we have this check, queen e4. If the king goes to g1, we have checkmate with rook h1. So after queen e4 check, we'll probably get king f1. In which case we can play rook h1 check, king e2, queen f3. Then the king is coming to d3, and we can pick up the rook, which looks good. But the king gets away here, right? And I think we might even have something better. So if we have queen e4, king f1, I'm wondering if we can play queen f3 here, block off all the squares for the king, and then I think there's no way for the king to stop checkmate on h1. They can take the knight, and then we take back with the pawn. And I believe there are no checks left. So I think the right sequence is actually queen e4, queen f3. I'm going to think about this, though, for another second. Yep, I think we're going to try this. Oh, okay. Here we have this really nice move. Pawn takes, and if the pawn takes, we pick up the rook for free. If after pawn takes, he takes our rook, we take his rook. There's no way to stop us from making a queen. If pawn takes, let's see what else is possible. If rook here, we just take the pawn. If he takes, again, we queen. If after pawn takes, we get rook here, then we're just going to take this pawn, right? And then we're going to push this, check him here. So it should just be pawn takes. Here we don't want to play rook takes pawn, because he's going to take away our pawn, and then we're going to lose this one, right? So just take again with a pawn. If he takes a rook, we're making a queen. Here we should be able to pick up this bishop based on this checkmate threat. So if we take this knight, they take back with the bishop. We can bring our queen out to h4, and there we're threatening checkmate. So we're going to have to get a move like probably g3, and then we're going to be able to pick up that bishop for free. So here you can see that we could take this bishop for free, but we probably have something even better, right? We can take this pawn. King will be forced onto f8. And then we can just play queen d6. And then we're checking the king as well as hitting the rook. So we have a bit of a fork there, attacking two pieces at once. Now you can see we can take the rook for free. Here you'll notice that this rook is on a dark square, and we can also check the king on a dark square, and he'll be forced to block with his queen since the king can't move anywhere based on where our bishop is. So this should be a little double attack as well. We can pick up the rook, or the rook can block. Here we have this nice check on a7, and there's actually no good way to stop checkmate on f7. You can only really block with his pieces. Actually, I guess by blocking with his knight, he gives his king a place to run. But I think it's still good. Right, here. We're going to check here. Okay, yeah, I think after queen a7, we'll get blocks with the knight, and then we're going to take on d7. The king will drop down to f6. And then I think we actually have the checkmate here with knight g4. And you can see that our queen coordinates really well with the knight, because the queen will be taking care of these squares, and then the knight will take care of these two. Here we have a nice tactic that picks up the rook. So you'll notice that our rook is blocked by our bishop, but if it wasn't blocked by our bishop, we'd be able to go rook d8, and it would be protected by our bishop. King would have to move, and we'd be able to take the rook. So we can do this forcing move here. Bishop g6. It's a check, right? So he has to take. And then after that, we can come down and win the rook, I believe. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I think it's good. Here we should just have a simple way to win a piece. So you'll notice that we're attacking this bishop twice, but it's being defended twice. So here we can get rid of one of the defenders and then take the free piece. And if they take first, we just keep taking. You'll notice that this bishop is not attacking anything. And after taking here, we'll either be able to take here after they take our bishop, or if they don't take the bishop, we'll just drop it back and keep it. Okay, I think I finally see it. Here, if takes, we take. Check here. Takes. We'll drop back. Double attack. Can't come back because of the pawn. If here, here. Take, take. Here. If rook here. Gonna play pawn up. Pawn will have to come here. We'll go queen g6. And then there's no good way to stop. Queen f7. There we go. All right, here we should just have rook h5 check. If he blocks with the rook, we're going to take. And then we have this nice fork here. And then if he comes here, probably just going to play bishop here. If he goes here, we'll play bishop here. There we go. This one's a really cool tactic. And if you haven't seen the last game, we actually had this happen in my game. So here we take with the bishop. If takes here, we're going to check and win the bishop back. So here it's really important to not confuse the move order. It looks like we just have a checkmate with rook d1. And after blocks, we check. But after he blocks with the bishop, you can see that the rooks are then connected. And we actually can't just take and take, because then it's going to be equal material. So we actually have to start with bishop f5, I believe. Sorry, bishop c5. Let me make sure, though. We start with bishop c5. You can see that there's nowhere good for this bishop to go, since the knight is blocking it off. If it comes here, we just take with the rook, and this rook is still pinned. If it comes here, then we just take the free piece, and it's still pinned. So I'm going to start with this. Ooh, okay. I guess we were wrong. So here you can see that we're looking at this bishop, but it's protected by the queen. So we can try to deflect the queen off of the bishop. If it comes here with check, we just push this pawn up. And then the queen actually has nowhere it can go. And both pieces are attacked. Can't come back because the knight's defending. So it probably has to come here, and then we just probably pick up the bishop for free. Here you'll notice that we can just take the free piece. And we also need to defend this knight, because it's hanging currently. And if they took it, it would come with check. Now I think we probably have to play f4. We might get hit with this check, but we just drop the knight back and we block. We can't take or we lose our queen. And we can't drop back, defending our queen, because then we just lose the knight. Here we have this really nice idea. We can drop the knight back to g6. It's going to fork these two pieces. And there's actually not a great spot for this queen to go. It can't go anywhere in this diagonal because of our bishop. And then if it drops down, I assume we just kick it away with the pawn. Probably has to go here. And then we use this other knight to fork them again. Yeah, no, now we just take the queen. They take ours, we take the rook. Here we should just be able to take the pawn. We have two knights defending this square, so we shouldn't really be worried about the rook coming here. If we take in here, we always just take with one of the knights, right? Should be fine to take. So here I think we can just play bishop f4, and I think there's actually no good way to stop. Rook takes h2, rook h1 checkmate. Right, our king can always just run out here. The knight may be able to block somehow. Not really that I can see though. If it goes anywhere, we probably just take it. So I'm gonna try this one. Yeah, now we probably just take the knight for free. Now we're just gonna run away with our king. Here we probably just have queen d2 check. He's either gonna come here and we check. He comes back, we can check with the knight. Or he could drop back to b3, in which case we're just gonna check him on d1, and then he comes back and we check him with the knight. So I think the move here is bishop f6. And there's really no good way for the opponent to stop us moving this knight on the next move and attacking both of these pieces. So let's say we go bishop f6. If we get, well, first of all, if we get like c3 or something, we're probably just going to check on f3 and then pick up the queen. But if we go bishop f6, the queen drops back. We just take the bishop. If they take, we take their queen. So they have to take first, and then we get the bishop for free. Here, though, we can still just check and win the queen, right? There we go. That is Puzzle Rush Survival 0 to 50.